Today is day 14 and Saxon and I are starting off the day by jump starting this McLaren MP4-12C. If you didn't know this, if your McLaren dies, there is a hidden keyhole behind the fins over there. You put the key in, you pop the latch, and then you can do the super sketchy situation where you put this battery in parallel to the dead battery and it gets a reference charge, so you can go ahead and charge the battery. We've done this on this McLaren before, so we know it works. Before we do that, we're just going to use a C-Tech trickle charger to see if it'll charge the battery normally. And right now it just says reconditioning, so we'll see.
It says reconditioning?
I thought you said it said reconditioning. It says check. That doesn't bode well. Okay, well, that means we have to take out all of this inner panels to actually get to the battery. It's actually pretty much just a bunch of these tiny screws and then the gasket. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Pull out. And there she is, the unnecessarily overcomplicated McLaren battery. But unfortunately for McLaren, this battery works like almost every other battery minus the coating, so we should be good. And thankfully we have our lifesaver battery from Optima, which has jump-started almost every car in our collection and some of our friends' cars, obviously, because it's the only battery that ever stays charged. So thanks, Optima. Now that we've got the batteries hooked up to each other and to the charger, it is charging, which is a good thing. Now we just let it sit on the charger and go back to our house, and we'll come back and check on it later and put it back together if it's charged. So now we're back at the shop and Saxon is in the garage working on trying to get the K-Series back together, but we're waiting for the new Jackspania turbo to come in, which should take about, I don't know, probably a week. And then we'll be able to hopefully put everything back together so he can once again have a running K-Series Elise. I say once again, but it hasn't really run since he put the K-Series in there. Womp womp. Now, since the weather has been so crappy and bad outside, I thought, because I got so many questions on it on the past few videos I've done on TikTok and Instagram, that I would tell you guys the story of how I blew up my 2GR FE, which, if you didn't know, is a Toyota-based platform in my Lotus Evora. The short and most obvious answer is that I did not blow up the engine, but I was there when the engine blew up and I watched it happen in real time. Now, to start at the beginning of the day, the car was originally Schmodified's. Schmodify let one of our friends, Ryan, borrow the car because he had done some type of damage to his Porsche Cayman. So essentially a really similar platform. There was no reason to think there would be any problems in driving the car. We took the Schmodified McLaren, the Schmodified Lotus Evora, and at the time I was driving a McLaren GT press car that they had dropped off for me for the weekend. We had driven it about 45 minutes north to a car show. Leaving the car show is when things went really, really bad. Essentially, we made a U-turn, a pretty hard U-turn when we had just turned the cars on. The engines weren't hot. I missed the U-turn and I was driving a lot more modestly because I was in a press car. By the time I caught back up to everyone, I just remember smelling this like really strong scent of burnt gear fluid and thinking, oh my God, I just blew up this McLaren press car. What am I going to do? I might as well just drive into a ditch at this point. And then I caught up to the Evora just in time to see a really bright pop in the rear window, obviously, because it's a mid-engine car. And I felt a lot of things at that point. The first one was relief that I did not blow up the McLaren press car, and then panic because there were giant shards of metal that were flying out all over the road. There was oil, there was gear oil, and we all pull over, obviously, to make sure that Ryan can get out of the car and that Ryan is okay, because in a really crazy turn of events. Now, remind everyone at this time that the Evora is stock. It is a completely stock, still naturally aspirated engine, making less than 300 horsepower. There's really no reason for this catastrophic damage to occur. But the flywheel had detached from the transmission, erupted through the firewall and into the back seat. Luckily, no one was sitting back there, and there was some cushioning between the back seat and the driver's seat. Otherwise, Ryan would have probably been in a really, really bad situation. Pulled over on the side of the road there. We all jump out of our cars. We're making sure that we're getting metal shards off of the road because we're in traffic. And we're trying to figure out what exactly happened besides knowing that the car had obviously just exploded. From the pieces that we found and the gear oil, we knew that the transmission was blown. So we get the car towed back to the house. I, of course, start playing my, this is the very first car where we see my In the Arms of the Angel saga going anytime someone in the friend group blows up a vehicle. This was the car that started it. The car goes back to the shop. Schmodified pulls everything apart. Obviously, we know that the transmission's blown. Visually, everything in the engine looks fine, so he goes ahead, replaces the transmission, slaps a supercharger on it, does an oil change. The oil looks fine. But what he did not do was a compression test. So he gets the car back together, starts the car up, and it's making this absolutely horrendous noise. I wish that I had taken a video of it at the time, but this was really, the beginning of me ever creating content. So he turns the car on, and there's clearly something going wrong. An entire bank, half of the cylinders were not firing. We spent about another 8 or 9 months doing electrical diagnostics, trying to read up, replacing wiring harnesses, chasing leads, having people come out to the house and try to figure out what is wrong with this car before he inevitably does a compression test and discovers that cylinder 5 is not getting compression and the motor is blown. They were able to bore scope out the engine and see they were getting really severe blow-by, and there was a lot of damage to the piston head. So at this point, he had started looking at other Evoras to take as a project car. He ended up buying a new Evora, not a new, but a new to him Evora for a relatively cheap price, and agreed to sell me his Evora for what he had left on it, which was around $10,000 with a blown engine. So I did not blow the engine. I bought it like that. To this day, we don't know how anyone managed to money shift a car so hard, a stock, naturally aspirated Toyota motor, so hard that they caused that amount of catastrophic damage to the transmission and the engine. I think really the only way that we would know that is if we sent the computer out to be analyzed, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter because our friend was safe and the car was blown up. So now I have it, and I am going through the process of rebuilding it, my first full mechanical rebuild by myself. So we're going to start tackling that, I want to say about April, once I finish getting all of the Lotus Leaf stuff sorted out, among all of the other projects that of course we have going on this year. So that is it for today. I will catch you guys tomorrow, and maybe we'll tell another one of my chaotic car stories along with our vlog. Thank you guys so much for watching and for being a part of this daily vlog series, because I have a ton of fun recording it and taking you along with me on what random cars and chaotic adventures I get into. So thank you guys.